Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This panel is Financial Planning for Family Building. I'm going to introduce everyone on our panel. We have Davina Fankhauser. She is a trained educator and counselor and is the co-founder and president of Fertility Within Reach. Through education and coaching, Fertility Within Reach aims to empower infertile individuals to advocate in order to build their family. Davina is driven to teach others how to advocate for themselves in the hope that they will be spared the pain and heartache known to accompany infertility, especially when denied access to timely and appropriate treatment. And Davina will be our moderator today. And then our first panelist is Nicole Lawson. As a caseworker for a Los Angeles-based surrogacy agency and also the co-founder of Baby Quest Foundation, Nicole understands the necessity of making advanced procedures a reality rather than a dream. Baby Quest is a charitable organization whose goal is to grant financial assistance to those who cannot afford the high cost of procedures such as egg donation, IVF, and surrogacy. Catherine Kakoff-Manos is the co-founder of Global IVF, the one and only informational website geared towards fertility patients searching for answers about traveling abroad for IVF treatments. Catherine also runs a successful surrogacy agency and fertility consulting business, Agency for Surrogacy Solutions and Agency for Fertility Solutions. Working with clients from all over the world, the companies have been thriving since 2004. Wendy Hartman and the law offices of Wendy Hartman are devoted to assisting clients with estate, business, and taxation planning. A significant portion of her practice is devoted to advising same-sex couples regarding estate planning, family formation, adoption, and taxation matters. Wendy lectures frequently to both community and professional groups in the areas of estate taxations, as well as on the evolving domestic partnership laws and estate planning and taxation for same-sex couples. So thank you, all of you, for joining us today. And with that, I will hand it over to Davina.
I have a microphone I've got. I just like to stand. My name's Davina Fankhauser, and I was an infertility patient for 15 years. And we lived in states without mandated benefits, and even when we did, in Massachusetts and Texas, our employers were self-insured, and so they didn't have to cover infertility treatment. And we made all of our medical decisions based on finances and fears, and it was pretty costly in the long run. And then I did eventually build my family. I have 2 amazing kids, and I started to lobby at the state and national level because I thought everyone deserves access to timely and appropriate health care when it comes to infertility. And I was successful. So at the Massachusetts State House, they updated the definition of infertility, and now women over 35 can gain access to benefits after 6 months of trying. And I just thought, you know, if I can make this happen, I can teach anybody to do this. So we pulled all of our tools and resources and research, and we've created step-by-step instructions. Here's how you effectively communicate with your employer. Here's how you write an insurance appeal. Here's how you ask for an exemption of benefits. And you, time is going to pass anyway while you're trying to build your family, have an opportunity to do something that empowers yourself and might not only help you, but others and maybe your own children one day. So you can learn more about Fertility Within Reach at our website, fertilitywithinreach.org, or we're booth 220. Thank you. All right, now, Nicole. And let me just say, all of these women are a pleasure to know, and I so respect the opportunity to be in this field with them. So Nicole, you had your experience with infertility. You built your family so far through surrogacy. And can you tell us about all the different costs involved in your journey and how you and your family managed to arrange to get the funds that you needed?
I first, let me see these slides. I'm first just going to want to introduce myself. My name is Nicole Lawson, and I'm co-founder of the Baby Quest Foundation, which is an organization that provides financial assistance to those who cannot afford the high cost of infertility treatments. My story and struggles to have a child are most likely similar to some of yours. My husband and I started to try to have a baby when I was 28, young, healthy. I figured, okay, it's going to happen right away. Who thinks that they're not going to get pregnant at 28? To my surprise, by the age of 31, I had endured a few miscarriages, had a few surgeries, way too many tears, and those tears is what we can all relate to here today. It's not fun, infertility, and it's not something that you choose to go through, and it should not be that difficult to have a baby and to worry about how much it's going to cost and to break your bank. I feel very blessed to sit here today and share my story of why my mom and I started Baby Quest. 3 years ago next week, my husband Josh and I welcomed our most precious little girl via a surrogate, and I stare at her every day and know how fortunate we are. But without the financial help from our parents, we would not have this child. We'd spent most of our own personal savings on all the initial rounds of IVF and testing, and it's truly heartbreaking to know that some of you are in that same position today. After my daughter was born, I decided to leave my job in entertainment to work for an LA-based surrogacy agency called Alternative Conceptions. I felt that was my calling, and I wanted to share my experiences and struggles to guide others through their own experience. In addition to that, in 2011, Baby Quest was formed. Baby Quest is unique in accepting applications from same-sex couples, singles, as well as heterosexual couples. Applicants can be treated by their doctor of choice. There's no geographic restrictions, and recipients can live in the United States, as long as recipients live in the United States. Although we are a relatively new charity, we have already awarded 9 grants, which we are so proud of. Our Reno couple will deliver the first Baby Quest baby this March 2013. It's amazing just seeing the tears of her finally finding out that she was pregnant is just, it's priceless. And it meant so much to my mom and I. Still, the challenge to sustain our momentum is daunting. As a nonprofit functioning in a difficult economy, we're constantly attempting to increase public awareness of our existence and gather sufficient donations to raise as much money as possible. We are a completely volunteer organization. Just my mom and I. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about the many people who don't have those additional funds to just try one round of IVF. That's why we started Baby Quest, to try to help others make their dreams come true. Please stop by our booth today. We're actually at booth 220. We are raffling off, yes, we are sharing a booth together, Davina and I. We are raffling off a full medical consultation with one of our board reproductive endocrinologists, Mark Kalin, who's speaking here this weekend. And if you have any questions that you don't feel comfortable asking here, we're there to answer those questions. I know I didn't answer your question because I wanted to just talk about Baby Quest first, so
that's okay.
I can
It's your
answer
birthday present.
It's my birthday, yeah. It's my birthday today.
Happy birthday.
Oh, thanks. Do you want me to?
Can we come back?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
No worries.
I have to, Catherine. Catherine.
Yes. Did you have
your-
a question? Or no, I'll just start. Hi, I'm Catherine Kakoff-Manis. Let's see if I've got a slide up here. And my company, I have 2 companies, Global IVF, which is a free informational website for people looking to travel for treatment and in many cases save money. I also have a surrogacy agency for surrogacy solutions, and I have a success case sitting next to me, former client.
Excuse me, sorry.
I too can empathize with the struggles that people are going through. I one day counted that my husband and I went through over 100 embryos, 6 fresh IVF cycles, 3 frozen, 2 surrogates, and an egg donor to get to the point where we were parents of children. I have identical boy twins that were carried by a surrogate, and they're 9 years old. So my struggle was for a while ago, but my heart is with you when people come up and talk to me. And every day I assist helping people. And what happened is I eventually started my surrogacy agency because I really felt passionate that this was a wonderful way to create my family when I had no other options for myself. And clients would come to me, and it's very expensive to do surrogacy in the United States. And they would always say, what else can I do? And I'd say, even if I give you a free cycle from us and there's no agency fee, it's still, I can't, the costs are really prohibitive. And they're like, well, where else can I go? And this was years ago. And I said, oh, I saw on Oprah that you can go to India. And they're like, well, where do you go? And I was like, I don't know, but I'm a researcher and also somebody that really wants to help people and to learn and assist. That's really become my mission in life. And I got on the web, and what I found out is that it's really hard to tell where to go. Everybody's site looks really good or bad, and then there's all, this place is bad, this place is good. And I said, why isn't there one website where I can start going to get information about traveling for treatment to save money? And there wasn't one, and that was when I created, as I said, Global IVF. And what it is, it's for people traveling for treatment, and for this, not that it's relevant here, but it's for people traveling both ways. People come to the United States because we do have really top medical care here, but you have to have finances, and they're really, it is hard to afford things. And so we created that for people traveling. And if you come to our website, there's all kinds of information that you can get, tips on traveling for treatment. And what I never really even say that I advocate traveling for treatment. What I say is if this is the choice that you make, you need to be informed. You need to know what you're getting into. It's not apples to apples, and it's not always the same thing. You're not getting the same treatment when you go abroad, but you are definitely saving funds. What I do is very rewarding, and I used to, how I got to this from my own personal stories, but I also used to be a television producer, and my business partner was too, and I say I used to produce TV, and now I help produce babies, and the outcome is so much more rewarding. And, and I do. My goal is to help educate people, whether it's assisting with surrogacy and educating with their options. Egg donation, I don't have egg donors, but I went through the process myself. It can be daunting, and sometimes you need just a person that has nothing invested in what you do to help you, and the same thing in traveling for treatment.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Wendy?
Hi, I'm Wendy Hartman, and please bear with me, I'm getting over laryngitis. If you can't hear me, just let me know. I'm a tax and estate planning attorney, but I've really devoted the last several years of my practice to working with young couples, many same-sex couples, and a lot of my clients are young couples before they create their families or starting to have their families. I've got lesbian couples where they're going through a sperm bank to designate a sperm donor, or they're going through egg donation because they can't carry it with their own eggs. I've got gay couples, a couple of gentlemen, one going through it right now, and they're so excited in the process. They're going through the process where they designated an egg donor, they designated the surrogate, they went through several agencies and interviewed several agencies. And what was interesting is in many of the cases, the agencies themselves require specific language in the documentation. So I prepare documentation. I don't do the surrogacy agreements, but I do the estate planning documents, or the wills, the trust, the healthcare directives, which are really critical for basically every couple, but very specifically for same-sex couples or young couples who aren't married, because they have no legal protections. So we want to make sure that the documentation they prepare is sufficient to be able to allow their partners to make decisions. They want to both be able to be involved in the process of making decisions for their child, their children. So it's very important, it's really critical that documentation is done right. I came to this panel kind of talking about some of the financial aspects and the estate planning aspects. So if you have questions, I'll talk a little bit more about specific documents in a minute, but I don't want to get into too much detail in the actual documentation. But what's important to learn is that every couple is very different. And every couple I sit down with has different reasons for wanting to become parents. They have different ways of going about it. And in my particular case, it's very important because no two couples are the same. And we sit down and we start from scratch with every couple in the sense of, what are you doing? What have you thought about? Have you gone to family for financing? It's nice to learn about Nicole's company as a possible source for funding. Wells Fargo is now offering some funding. So there's different agencies and organizations out there that we're learning about as we go through the process with different clients.
Great, thank you. Now we're going to actually open it up to questions from you. We have a question. And we have a microphone coming to you right now.
We could probably hear you. But
Good afternoon. My question is for Nicole. Do you deal with independent surrogates that are not in an agency? They're just want to help the couple out to have kids?
yeah.
So.
Personally, no. But normally, I work for an agency, so of course you would have to go through the agency. But I do have a lot of knowledge about it. So if there was ever any questions, I would be happy to ask you. But it's not something that we handle personally.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
A couple of questions.
Can I?
Yeah. Do you want to answer more
Yeah,
to that, please?
could I add a little to that question? Sure. And I don't know if I can get my slides up again because.
Maybe not the slides, but
Oh,
because we have multiple questions in the audience and we only have time for 2 or 3.
I just wanted to put this up here for financing. I'm sorry, I was just going to say, for financing, when you're looking at surrogacy, it is very expensive in the United States, and there are options abroad in a few different countries, and the savings can be quite substantial. Okay.
Thank you. Next question.
Regular medical health insurance. I always thought, I worked for a large investment bank. I always thought that my health insurance was top of the line, and it has proven that case in other areas. But when it comes to fertility, it's non-existent. And I was just reading an article that said in California, insurers have to offer you, there's an option to buy fertility coverage. I went to my human resources department. I explained to them our situation, and I didn't get any answers. So I'm confused, and I'm a lawyer. So
Yeah.
I don't understand. Like, I need help.
There are difference in mandates. There's a mandate to offer, like in California, and a mandate to cover. And a mandate to offer means the insurance provider must offer an infertility package to the employer, but the employer is not mandated to pick it up. In addition, in California, the mandate to offer is for infertility benefits, excluding IVF. Now, some employers may choose to carry IVF, but they are not mandated to offer IVF as a part of that infertility benefit. Yet. Yeah, who's with me? I'll work with you. We can do this. I'm not kidding. We can do this.
Can I ask a question on that? Do you know if in 2014 with Obamacare that's going to change?
So what would happen with that, with the essential health benefits that was selected by California through Kaiser, does not carry infertility benefits. So those who would be applying for like Medicare type coverage and they get this essential benefit package from California, it does not include it there. Because it does not include it there, it will be unlikely there would be a different fertility mandate, because if a state offers a new mandate, they then have to pay for those people with the essential health benefits. However, what I did in Massachusetts, when we updated the definition, it wasn't creating a new mandate, it was a clarification of the existing mandate. So that's the approach to use in a state like California, is you're clarifying things. I thought there was a question.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks to the panel. I have a question, we have a question regarding, and the slide's very helpful, but specifically to surrogacy, and it's not necessarily financial, but the timing, from the time that you would decide to look down the path of surrogacy and with an egg donor, how long of a process, and then if you are first looking at that, what would be the suggested first steps?
So I'm going to have Nicole answer that first.
You can be, once you sign with an agency, you can be matched with a surrogate depending upon your specifications on what you want in your surrogate or your egg donor as quickly as a month. It could take up to 6 months. It really depends on exactly what you're looking for. If you want a specific surrogate who has blonde hair, it's going to take 6 months. If you're not as picky, or you just, you find the one and you're matched, right away, it could be as quickly as a month. Of course, there are different steps involved with surrogacy. You have it's extremely important to have a legal agreement with your surrogate and your egg donor. So that takes, that's a step involved in there. But again, I would average, about a month to, 4 months is about the average. As far as, I'm not sure exactly where you are in your steps right now, but if you are just seeing, an OB doctor and you think that you are going to need a surrogate or an egg donor, I would suggest making an appointment with a reproductive endocrinologist. If you're in Los Angeles, I'm happy to give you a few names. There's a bunch of booths out here of amazing doctors who would be happy to speak with you. But you can come talk to me afterwards as well, and I can give you a few names if it's not something you're familiar with yet.
Catherine, did you have anything to add?
That each agency has a different time frame as far as how long it takes to match. That's one agency. Our agency is 1 day, depending if we have the right person for you, to 3 months is the longest that it's taken. But most people have their, it depends on your requirements, as she said. The other thing is with an egg donor, the search, you need to be doing them together, not one or the other. But the thing about an egg donor is there can be a wait, especially if you're looking at somebody that's a proven egg donor. The egg donors that everybody likes are often picked, so you might have to wait for that egg donor. So that said, surrogates understand that and are willing to wait, but egg donors are, they're in college or they're working. They're not as flexible with their schedule and the waiting. So you have to kind of keep that in mind. But from your first call or from your match until transfer, if your egg donor is ready, is about 2.5 to 3 months.
Okay. Do we have any other questions? Oh, great. Okay.
What should you really be looking? Hi. What should you be really looking in when picking a surrogate? Like what, other than obviously health or stuff like that, what are some maybe questions or concerns you should have going into picking the right surrogate for you?
Okay, first I'm going to have Catherine do it this time.
Can I ask, are you looking for independently or are you working with an agency?
Probably.
Okay, so if you're looking independently, there's websites or people that you know. You want somebody that had healthy pregnancies. A lot of people might offer, or a friend might say, oh, I want to do this. There's so much involved. It is not the same as your own pregnancy. There is much more accountability. That you don't have the same freedom as a surrogate. So you want someone that has an easygoing personality, a very good support system, healthy pregnancies, term, if not term, what were the reasons for not term? Because sometimes there's a reason that a doctor delivered early that is no indication that she would deliver early again, so you have to look at it. You want to look at her insurance. There are specialists that will assist you in the reproductive field because you want to make sure her insurance will cover a surrogacy pregnancy. Some insurance companies will not cover a surrogacy pregnancy, but they'll cover other pregnancies. There's a lot of intricacies, and sometimes having an agency on as a consultant to assist you to kind of see some of the red flags is a good idea. Lawyers, reproductive lawyers, sometimes are able to add that assistance also. And you will save money when you go independently, but sometimes, it's also you take on a huge amount of responsibility and headache and stress that you don't have when a good agency is involved in the picture. They take that away, but you have to weigh it out. There's, a fee for the agency that can be hefty, and are you willing to take on that, responsibility and headache?
Nicole, do you want to add anything?
I think you covered it pretty well.
Of course. Yes, ma'am.
Hi. Either through your own experience or from clients that you've seen, how are you or they able to afford, the process of this?
Well, some of them that we see are older, in their 40s who have established their careers, and now all of a sudden they want a child. So for them, they can afford it. Other people, they go to family. They sell their homes. Yes, I've had clients who've sold homes just so they could afford a surrogate, which it's heartbreaking that somebody has to do that. They pretty much will do anything they can to be able to afford this. And there aren't a lot of, they refinance their houses. They, again, they can take out a loan. It just, that all adds up. And again, that's why this organization was started, to hopefully one day be able to help a couple. Of course, surrogacy is expensive, so right now we've just funded IVFs and IUIs, but hopefully one day we will be able to help a couple have a surrogate.
Okay, but just
That's okay. I just wanted to, that was my experience for 15 years. So we used our Roth IRAs. My husband had stocks through his employer, and we cashed those in and used that to help fund our treatment. We did everything we could afford to do without really putting tremendous stress on ourselves. And then eventually we found a non-group insurance policy, which we paid through the roof for, but it was less than an IVF cycle, and we were able to at least get some funding for it, not for all of our treatment, but for part of it. It just took a while to find those. Like she said, you can ask people, but you can also, there are financial programs out there where you can take loans. There are clinics that have shared cycles where you pay half the cost of an IVF cycle. So there are various options out there. And we'll answer your question as soon as Catherine has a chance to respond.
So global IVF, not everybody is interested in traveling, but when you're looking at the cost of a surrogacy with an agency in the United States, you're probably looking at anywhere between $80,000 and $110,000, which is a huge amount of money. I mean, it could be a little less, could be a little more, but when you're going to, and I'm not advocating it, but if you go to the Ukraine, you're looking at about $50,000 with travel, so it's at least half the price. If you go to India, there's $20,000 and $30,000. Again, I'm not saying you are not looking, it's not the same. If you have the money, I would stay here. There's so much more control, there's so much more protection, you understand the medical system, but if you don't have those funds, there are other options, and our website is there to educate and make good choices.
I would also say, if you're a cash patient, ask your doctor, is this your cash price? Because sometimes the fee they give you is the fee that they're going to bill the insurance company, and the insurance company always negotiates a lower price that they reimburse the clinic. And you want your cash paying price to be about the same as what they're reimbursed from the insurance company. So you can, go ahead.
I was just going to say, when my clients come to me and we sit down in the early process, we're looking at family loans, we're looking at 401ks, Roth IRAs, we're looking at any pension assets they might have, family savings. They may wait a couple of years. I have several couples that waited 3 to 5 years because they were able to put away a certain amount of money each year and they didn't really want to have to finance it. Many of the companies now are offering self-funding, so they're assisting the clients in financing it. Many of the doctors here in the Los Angeles area, I understand, also assist in getting funding and loans for the clients. So there are options out there, but it's difficult.
And if you have the flexibility to change employers, I just wrote a blog on our website, and it has a long list of employers in California that offer some form of infertility benefits. So there are businesses in California that do provide. So if you have some flexibility and you can change your employer, check out the list on the website.
They're going to receive a flex.
That's an excellent point, though, because a lot of businesses will reimburse for costs towards adoption. So you can ask them if they'll do it towards this as well.
Exactly. Question?
Yeah, so, wow, okay, I talk loud. One of the other ways that I've seen some people funding in newest ways is crowdfunding. Mm-hmm. So where somebody puts on the web, hey, I need help to pay for my, for building my family, and that's one way to, get your community, your family outreach, and everybody involved in the family building process.
That is a great reminder. I actually just came across a website called IVF and then the number 4 and then everyone, IVFforeveryone.com. And they help you do a crowdfunding page. They help you look at your credit score to see if you could get a loan. They help. It's a great resource and it's free. So it's good thinking.
Yeah, and then on the international route, I ended up doing 3 rounds in Holland for less than 1 round in the United States. So it's possible to go abroad. I spent 3 months abroad, so January, March, and June of 1 year were the times of my 3 cycles, and that cost of 3 rounds did include my lodging and my rent-a-car and my food.
Wow. That's great.
Bada boom.
Did you like it? Good experience?
Well, I was not successful, but that's okay. But that's not the point.
But the experience.
But the experience was good. I'm an adventurer at heart, so going abroad was no problem for me. But once everybody in Holland knows that you speak English, then they speak English back. So that wasn't a problem either for me. But I was able to be much more relaxed because I didn't have all the pressures of home being on me, and I was just able to take long walks in the woods and really actually focus on being grounded during that time.
Nice. We have a question over here, and then another one over there.
So back to the employer-sponsored coverage. First of all, I want to tell you about a little win I had with my company, but then I want to kind of tie together 2 different kind of points of view. One was that the company had an age limit on their IVF benefits. And I'm a statistician, and I challenged it because if you were doing egg donation, the statistics on egg donation are such that age shouldn't matter.
Right.
And they backed down immediately, so that was great. But the second thing is that, so they will offer IVF coverage, and they will offer adoption benefits, but what about surrogacy benefits? How common is that, and how do you get the company to meet you there, to some extent, right?
I don't. So I just testified at the Massachusetts Division of Insurance and said that they needed to move surrogacy from an optional benefit to a required benefit. And what I did was I said, look, when you cover for surrogacy, you will have less high-risk pregnancies. You will have healthier moms. You will have less premature births, less NICU costs. And then I held up a picture of my son who was born 12 weeks early. And I said, had you covered reimbursed $7,000 for me to use a surrogate, you would have saved a $99,000 NICU bill, and you would not have had to pay for me to go see a specialist every week of my pregnancy. And jaws dropped. They were like, wow. So you have to balance. You make it real personally, but it is financial to them to say, this is a win-win for us. You know, it's a win-win. You know, you are going to save in the long run. I'm going to save. You're going to have a happy, thankful employee, you know, who you will have my forever loyalty for giving me my family, you know.
But there's no legal connection between surrogacy being kind of an adoption of some sort, or any of the legal costs?
To the best of my knowledge, not right now, but I think there is some movement towards that. But again, it's an uphill battle, and you have to bring to light the fact that it's a similar level of attention. Adoption here, surrogacy there, because they, you know. So I know as we progress in a lot of ways with the same-sex couples movements and the marriage and things like that, we're seeing more and more movement on other fronts.
There was another question. The woman in the glasses, did you have a? The woman in the glasses. Yeah. Did you have a question? No? Okay. Anyone else? Oh, back here.
I'm just curious with the international or global IVF, what control you have with the surrogate, you know, with the transfer and that sort of thing. Like, do you have any interaction? You know, how does that work?
With the surrogate, it depends which country that you're working with and what your own personal requirements are. I mean, control for the transfer and things like that as much as you do here. I'm going to India in a week and a half to kind of see firsthand and look and see what's there, so I can only tell you what other people have said. But I've been to Ukraine, and the quality of care is very high. A lot of the surrogates do not speak English, but you can have a translator involved. In Ukraine, which is it's not India, that, you know, it's more of a European feel, what they do is that for the last 2 months of the pregnancy, they move the surrogates into Kiev, close to the top hospital, in case there are any complications. But like in the United States or anywhere else, how much control you have, surrogacy is an exercise in giving up control. And unfortunately, a lot of people that pursue surrogacy are type A personalities. You're used to having, you know, creating an environment that you get what you really want. And these same people have to kind of give up and hand over some trust to the people that they're working with. And that's really surrogacy in the United States or abroad. There is an element of trust that's involved. But in other countries, in India, they have housing where they house the surrogates. So they make sure they're eating the right thing, and they have constant prenatal care if that's what you want. They don't have that in Ukraine. In Georgia right now, surrogacy is legal, but the surrogate can change her mind at the end of the surrogacy. So to me, that's not really a good situation. There are other countries, too, that offer surrogacy, and I'm not sure how much it's regulated. But it's an emerging field. You are saving money, but you are giving up a lot of things when you go abroad, and you have to know that. But you save a huge amount of money.
Thank you.
Question?
We have one back here, and then.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Hi. You know that list you talked about with the employers that offer IVF?
Yep.
Where would we find that list?
It's right now posted under fertilitywithinreach.org // I don't know which way it is, blog.
When you were talking about international surrogacy, have you dealt with anyone from Israel?
Surrogacy is not legal in Israel, so they are sending a lot of their clients to India right now. The laws in India are changing. They're no longer, the government is not recommending same-sex or singles to do it there, so that's going to cut down a lot. But if you're a heterosexual, legally married couple, it's still an option for you.
In Israel?
It is, yeah, but they need you to be married, and they need to have one of the intended parents biologically related to the child.
She said in Israel.
In Israel.
In Israel, but they're not doing.
They're not doing
anything.
anything.
They're sending their, what do you call it?
So if I had a friend or family member in Israel who was willing to carry a child for me, she would have to come to the U.S. to do it.
Exactly.
Okay.
And again, the laws are changing constantly. It's ever evolving, and something that I say to you today, tomorrow can be a completely different story. Every country in the world is dealing with the issues of reproductive laws right now, and they're changing.
So how does this work with surrogacy internationally? Because I know in the United States, when you have a surrogate, the surrogate's health insurance plan does not necessarily cover for their maternity care. So internationally, do you have to buy insurance? Or
in most of the countries, they are covered by a national policy, and they don't care whether you're pregnant. It's just how you got pregnant is not a concern.
The reason I'm asking is because I'm also an Israeli citizen. Mm-hmm. So when I'm in Israel, if I need medical care, like IVF, I'm covered there.
Yeah.
So that's why I was asking specifically for Israel.
Right now it's not legal, but but they recognize it, so that if you can be an Israeli citizen and go abroad and bring your baby and get an Israeli passport. So
I have an Israeli passport.
I meant your child can have an Israeli passport.
Meaning have the baby born in Israel.
No, you can go to, say, India and have the child get an Israeli passport.
Through me.
Through you, exactly. Whereas, some countries, if you were German, you wouldn't be able to do that. In fact, you wouldn't be able to go to another country because it would have no citizenship. They don't recognize the citizenship of the country it's born in. It's the citizenship of the parents.
Thank you.
Do we have any more questions? I saw you go like this. Were you just waving?
But I'm interested in knowing what facility young woman went to in Holland.
The question is, what facility in Holland did you go to? It sounded wonderful. Do we have any questions from social media?
We do. We have some. Can you talk a little bit about where someone might start to look into funding? I know you talked about folks selling their house and things like that, but are there places where you can go to get loans specifically to cover IVF or specifically to cover surrogacy versus looking at taking a second mortgage or things like that?
I do know one thing. I just learned that Wells Fargo is starting to finance these treatments and surrogacy. I don't know how specific it is. There was somebody in the exhibited area that was talking about it. So that is a definite possibility. Start talking to your bank about what opportunities they have, your doctors, the agencies themselves.
So there are several companies that actually go to doctors' offices and give brochures. And there are some fertility clinics where they do, not that they cover the funding, but they have a financial plan that if you have a certain credit score and you know, for a certain percentage or interest rate, you can get a loan from them for your treatment.
So like you pay off your baby basically in 18 years.
I'm not sure what the terms are, but yeah, you're fixed. It's your house.
It's probably a relatively short term.
Yeah.
Because once you have the baby, so it's probably relatively short term. You probably start early in the process, and maybe it's 3 to 5 years.
Right.
I just wanted to let you know that the Jewish Federation, through Jewish Free Loans, gives loans for in vitro and family building.
That's good to know.
That is good
Thank
to know.
you.
Excellent.
Yay. Another resource.
Oh, that's surprising. Yeah.
On the Jewish free loans, there's usually a limit and it's a payback term, but it's very favorable, so it's worth checking into.
Davina, on your website too, do you keep track of other states that do mandate covering infertility? I know from my experience, I went through 4 IUIs and 5 IVFs in Massachusetts, and they were all covered by insurance. I had to pay a certain amount for drugs, but nominal compared to what most people pay.
Right. So on our website, there is a, I wish I had it up right now. I'm trying to picture it in my head. So we have Empower Yourself, and then there is, I think, Resources is on the menu. And it drops down and it gives you information on state mandates, and actually it has all the contact information for the state legislators. It has information on the states that have mandates, and then it has all the website URLs for where you can file a complaint with your insurance. With your state insurance if you feel like you've been wrongly denied for benefits. To make it just, you click it and you're right there. So.
I have a question for Davina. To make a collective...
Oh, hang on, she's going to bring you a microphone.
Thank you.
In making a collective effort to change policy, that is, to make it inclusive, not so exclusive, what action would you take as a woman or as women in general to go to Sacramento and demand that it be covered versus it being an option?
Good question. Okay, so the key is it starts with you. Bottom line, not a lobbyist, not a medical practice. You meet with your legislator, your senator, your representative, and you say, I would like this to happen. You have to be very specific. I would like the mandate to clarify and be reflective of the current medical standard, not something that was passed 24 years ago. You know, back then, IVF was more experimental, you know, not as standard as it is now. here are the statistics, here are these companies that are not mandated to cover it, but they do cover it, and you get your legislator to be your champion. And then you get, hopefully, your legislator might be head of the Senate or head of the House. And if not, then you find somebody who is in the district of somebody. You find the leadership at the legislature, and you use the terms. You just need to clarify. You say, California is known for this great health care. And we're using a medical definition that is 24 years old. Our current mandate does not reflect the healthcare needs right now. And you can help make this happen. You can bring better healthcare to your constituents. Did that answer your question? Thank you. And I think you get a girlfriend to go with you. And you find a friend who has a baby. Because I brought my baby with me and said, how could this not be worth $2 per premium? You know, come on.
Actually, I just wanted to share. I'm part of California Latinos for Reproductive Justice. And we do somewhat, but as far as this fertility and all this combined, I really haven't heard of it. And that's why I'm here. I'm thinking, where have you all been, you know?
And in Massachusetts, because we have, there's marriage for same-sex couples. So these benefits now reflect these couples as well. So now that California has some good legislation going on here, that your mandate needs to reflect that as well. So it really does need to be clarified.
Davina, I just want to share something very briefly. It's a little bit off topic, but it's related to the possibility of success in California. So 2 years ago, in March, a woman in Santa Clara County who had a mastectomy after not being properly diagnosed with breast cancer went to her state senator, Joe Simidian, through there ought to be a law contest, and said mammographers should be mandated to tell women who have dense breast tissue that if they are very dense, they're going to need another modality like ultrasound or MRI to find her cancer. 2 years later, this April, the law is in effect in California that mandates for all women that if you have very dense breast tissue, you will be told so, and your doctor will be required to tell you about an alternative. So I only share that to say, in 2 years or less, with proper action, things can really happen. So I just don't want people to go, oh, right, yeah, get somebody, get a senator, get somebody, get a Sacramento. And we went to Sacramento. And this is going to happen state by state. And 5 states have passed this legislation, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it represents 33% of women. So.
Exactly. And the bill in Massachusetts, I got that passed in a year and a half. So, you know, while you have your application in and you're waiting, or while you're looking into other options or saving up to do global IVF or whatever option you're looking into, you could be doing something.
What's really important on that is all that you went through to kind of create the process and show the steps you went through and the financial models you used and things like that. Because the next person who takes it to California said, this is really successful in Massachusetts, this is really successful wherever else, and this is how they did it.
And one of my advisory council members is Michael Dukakis, and he teaches half the year in California. So he was calling the governor for me in Massachusetts. I know I can get him to call the governor in California. So there's...
So this changes the subject just a little bit, but in terms of financial planning or finding funding for medication and covering medication, are there any tips or any other countries? You know, I know some people, they get medication for things in Canada or in Mexico. Are there any other leads or things that we should know in terms of just getting just the medication?
As you said, there are discounted pharmacies in other parts of the world, like Canada, Mexico, and England. I don't know that the savings are all that substantial, and unfortunately, I don't, you know, Sometimes doctors will, you can ask the doctors if you have financial need here in the United States if you're working and say, are there any clients that aren't using all their meds? Sometimes they are able to get it through insurance. Some people over-order because their insurance pays for it, and then they're like, hey, I have a baby, and they give it to the doctor. But there are a lot of gray market areas that I wouldn't recommend. So those are your best options, unfortunately.
There are pharmaceutical companies that do offer programs for fertility medications, and a couple of them have booths. One is Ferring, Ferring, and the other is EMD Serono. I know that they both have
They do. Just
programs.
the programs they offer, in the big scheme of things, it's a very minimal amount. It's like $500 off of your $6,000 med bill. So unfortunately, it helps, but it's not a huge savings, but maybe that will change.
I have a question, like people that are military with TRICARE, how do you go about trying to get them to do anything? Because people assume because you're military that it covers, which it doesn't.
Well, sorry guys. So TRICARE does have some benefits, but it's not enough to cover a full IVF cycle, correct? They cover.
That's not very much.
Yeah. So kind of what a lot of people are facing where, like in California, where they offer some benefits, but not enough to be IVF and so forth, right? So I actually met with a retired general of the Army, and he actually shared information with the Pentagon. That information at the Pentagon was recently shared with a senator from Washington. And Washington now passed a bill that veterans are able to receive coverage, fertility coverage. So my recommendation is you get the information to the decision makers, just like any other employer. So is how you treat TRICARE. And the Pentagon already has this information. So if they can do it for the veterans, they can do it for the men and women who are currently serving now, would be my push. Any other questions? This is great. You guys are a great group.
I'm on your list on your website of employers in California that cover insurance. And I just want to share that I'm very disappointed to find out that I left an employer 6 months before my diagnosis.
On good terms?
Can you go back, get your job back?
I'm like, are you kidding me? So I have some places to apply.
Yeah.
That's cute.
That's fantastic. Yes.
Another route that I think came up in one of the other discussions that I'm not sure, where would you go to find more information if you're, if you can't cover the cost? What about clinical trials? Is there like a source for that you could go to? That again, you're obviously you're taking a risk in that, but sometimes if you can't do anything else.
I have an answer if you don't.
I'm not aware.
Okay. So clinical trials, they're very specific. So what you can do is you can either do a Google search for clinical trials, or if there's a clinic that you're specifically interested in, you can contact them and ask them if they have clinical trials. But it's usually related to research that they're working on. So there might be a specific age group. You might need to have a specific medical condition, but you are absolutely able to contact any of these clinics. It doesn't matter if you live in that state. You just have to fit whatever requirements they have.
Usually a clinical trial also requires that you've ruled out many other things already. Besides fitting a demographic, you also have to have tried X, Y, and Z before.
I just want to add on that. We just actually joined a clinical trial, so we got accepted on Monday.
Congratulations.
So we spent 3 fabulous weeks in New York City, and all for the less than the cost of an IVF. So we have to travel back a couple more times, but it's definitely a cost savings. So But they do have very specific, in that particular trial, there's very specific criteria. So fortunately, we met those. So that's where we are.
That's
a friend told us about it. Yeah, so it's, this particular one is New Hope clinical trial. And I know that there's people that have gone through the clinical trial or were not accepted, that there is some resources of, who they're referring to other clinical trials, but I don't know them off the top of my head.
We have time for one more question.
This isn't a question, but just a couple things. Just while you were talking, I Googled, and there's a website, ihr.com/infertility, and it has a list of infertility and IVF clinical trials. So obviously, to Davina's point, easy to Google. There's another great website called creatingafamily.org, and they have an extensive list that includes Baby Quest Foundation and other people who offer grants, who offer financial assistance, et cetera. It's a nonprofit site, and it's really invaluable. So just want to offer those two resources.
Thank you so much. I cannot believe how quickly this time has passed, and I have a long list of thank yous. So I just want to make sure we have time for that. So first, thank you. I'd like to, just for some feedback, could you raise your hand if this was helpful to you? Okay. Could you raise your hand if you could use more information? Okay. So 3 of us have booths. So 220, 220.
I don't know the number.
Global IVF.
I have business cards.
Wendy has business cards. We have brochures. We have cards. We are still available for you even if this session is over. Okay. And I'd like to thank our online audience. #fertility and #FPS13. Yay. Thank you to Upstream for recording the program. So this program, you can view all the programs for free this weekend and then on demand starting Monday the 14th at fertilityplanet.com. And of course, thank you to Nicole, Kathy, and Wendy. Thank you so much for your time and your dedication to everyone and the common goal of helping build families. And thank you to Fertility Planet. Thank you for this show.